Will was carrying a mesh duffel bag of clean laundry back to his apartment as Michael was leaving Felicia's apartment. "Hey, you're Will, right?" Michael asked, catching Will off guard. Will cleared his throat. Yeah. "I'm Will," he said. "I'm Michael, Felicia's boyfriend. You know, it's funny. She talks about you all the time and we have never met." "Yeah, that's funny," Will chuckled softly. "She told me how you kept her company during the blackout and storm last week," Michael went on, then added, "I was stuck at the bar." "Yeah, so she told me. Hey, I have to head out now, but it was nice to finally meet you. We should hang out sometime, come by the bar and let's have a couple of drinks together, you know," Michael said as he continued down the hall to the elevator. "Yeah, we should do that," Will said awkwardly before he went into his apartment. Will thought how weird it was to finally meet Michael face to face after cheating with his girlfriend every which way. To make it even more awkward, from their brief meeting, Will kind of liked the guy and understood why Felicia was into him. Michael wasn't at all how Will pictured him to be. Michael towered over him 2 or 3 inches, and had cocoa brown skinned with light hazel eyes, or in other words, tall, dark and handsome. He wore dark denim jeans and a vintage plaid shirt, rolled at the sleeves. He looked like an intelligent guy and rather cool at the same time, totally Felicia's type of guy. Will could see Felicia settling down and getting married to a guy like Michael, even buying a home and having babies with him. As Will carried his laundry to his room and started putting it away, he thought, why did he even care what kind of guy Felicia liked? He found himself thinking about Felicia a lot lately. After they hooked up during the storm last week, Felicia basically told him that it was just one time. She had no intentions of repeating this one-time thing, let alone telling her boyfriend about it. Will did not object about keeping their little tryst on the down low, but he strongly doubted it was a one-time thing. He had just completed that thought when there was a knock at his door. When he opened the door, he wasn't completely surprised to see Felicia standing there before him, smiling and looking good enough to eat. That thought brought a wicked smile to his face. "Hey, I thought I heard you in the hall." Felicia smiled. "Yeah, I just got done with some laundry. Ran into Michael as he was leaving," Will said. "He's a lot taller than I've imagined him to be. And he's way more attractive than I thought. Do you want his number?" "I can hook you 2 up," Felicia teased. "Actually, he did invite me to have drinks with him." Will smiled. "And you're not going to accept, are you?" Will shrugged. "Why not? I kind of dig him, he seems cool. Maybe it's a start to another great bromance. We can hang out, have beers, and talk about sports, our favorite bands, and how we both love you. Hey, maybe I can even give him some pointers, you know." Felicia playfully, but with a bit of force, jabbed him in the ribs. "Will. That's not funny." Will grabbed his side as he exaggerated his injury. "Ouch, I thought it was funny," he said, then added, "So, why did you come over here, anyway?" A big smile appeared on Felicia's face as she spoke coyly. "You know why?" I don't know if I do. I don't have my music blaring, so it's not that. Maybe, you're baking a cake and need to borrow some sugar. Why are you always making jokes?" Felicia asked. "Then tell me why you are here," Will said, crossing his arms across his chest. Although his hands were aching to touch her again, he exercised patience. "Because I thought we could have some fun." Felicia smiled, stepping closer to him. "Oh, I have some board games, or maybe we can play Uno, or something." Felicia sighed. "You want me to say it, don't you?" "Yes, tell me what you want from me." "I want you," Felicia said bluntly. Will grinned, finally pulling her into his arms. "Why didn't you just say that from the start?" he said as he lowered his mouth to hers. "I can stay like this with you forever," he whispered tenderly in her ear. Felicia moaned in agreement. They kissed slowly and passionately, as if they had all the time in the world to be together. "I want you so much, Felicia," Will said with a seriousness uncharacteristic of him. I know, she smiled mischievously as she wrapped her arm around his head, grabbed a fistful of his blonde hair. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, Will and Felicia enjoyed the benefits of being close neighbors. They sought each other whenever they needed, and for Felicia that was more often. One evening, Felicia was just leaving one of her classes when she received a text message from Will. "See me after your class," it read. Felicia smiled. She would love nothing more than to go to Will's place, but she had already made plans to hang out with Michael at the bar while he worked. She replied, "Raincheck, going to hang out with Michael tonight." Will followed that up by sending her a frowny face emoji. After Felicia promised to do all things to him the next time she saw him, she received another emoji, a smiley face. She shook her head, smiling as she headed to see Michael. When Felicia walked into the bar, she noticed that it was kind of a slow night. She recognized a few regulars sitting at the bar while Michael stood behind the bar, pouring a drink. "Hey, Felicia, glad you made it," Michael smiled warmly when he noticed that she had just walked in. "Look who else I talked into hanging out." Michael pointed to the guy sitting before him at the bar. Will spun around on the bar stool and grinned at her. "Hey, Felicia." Will, what are you doing here?" Felicia asked, confused and definitely shocked. "Having a few drinks with my good friend, Michael." Will playfully smiled. "Yeah, he was just telling me that his booty call wasn't coming over tonight, so he decided to hang out with us," Michael said as he started to pour Felicia's favorite beer. "Really, huh? Your booty call?" Felicia said, trying to cover how offended she felt by that term. "What would you call it?" "Someone who just wants one night stand, no strings attached, no dating?" Will asked. "I call that the good life," Michael joked and received a hard glare from Felicia, then added, "I mean, for a single guy like you. Baby, you know I love you." Michael leaned over the bar to kiss Felicia's cheek. Will awkwardly cleared his throat. "Besides, I'm just her thing on the side." "And that's not true of you, too?" Felicia asked. "I've seen you go into your apartment with a girl or two, within the same week." "Not since I've started hooking up with this girl," Will admitted. "Really?" Felicia asked curious. "Sounds like you really like this girl." "Maybe she's more than just a booty call," Michael said. "Yeah, I do." Will smiled at Felicia. Felicia gently removed his hand and stood up. "Excuse me, I have to go to the restroom." She needed to get away and process what was going on. She went into the restroom, closed the door to one of the stalls, and leaned against the door. Felicia never thought she would be in a situation like this. Including Michael, she had only had 3 boyfriends in her life since high school. She always considered herself a good girl, and girls that cheated were greedy and slutty. Now, here she had relationship with 2 guys because she didn't want to leave Michael after being with him for over 2 years. They even talked about moving in together before all this started. At the same time, whenever she thought of Will she was immediately consumed with excited. She looked at herself in the mirror, she felt like she didn't recognize the face staring back at her. "Who are you?" she whispered to herself. "I love Michael. This thing with Will it's just a phase, it's nothing." When Felicia finally stepped out of the restroom, someone tugged at her arm. She turned and Will was standing there, smiling at her. "Will, what are you doing?" she asked, surprised. "Come here." He pulled her into his arms, her resistance was weak. Will pressed his lips to hers. Will, we can't do this," she finally said, pulling from his embrace. His kiss was tender and sweet. Felicia didn't know how she managed to pull herself together. "Didn't you say that you wanted to do all things to me the next time you saw me?" he grinned. "Will. Stop." Felicia grabbed his hands and stepped away from him. In a hushed voice, she whispered, "Michael's right there at the bar. He might see us. I can't hurt him like this." "And what about me, Felicia?" Will asked. "What about you?" You just show up at my boyfriend's place of work and think you can just throw it in his face like that? Will, yes, it's fun, but this isn't serious or real here. You're just my thing on the side, she said, quoting his words. I'm not your girl. I'm Michael's. So, that's it, huh? Okay, sure, whatever. He ran his fingers through his hair, frustrated, as he turned and headed back to the bar. Felicia waited a second, then followed him back to the bar. Will was already at his seat and on his phone. You okay, baby? Michael asked, curious about her disturbed look. Yeah, I'm fine, she said, taking a long swig of her drink. Sorry guys, I have to go, Will announced suddenly. Seems like there's a demand for my attention elsewhere. Booty call came through, huh? Michael grinned. Will finished up his drink and set some bills on the bar. Yeah, just this girl I keep on the side. Don't let us stop you, player. And don't be a stranger, stop by any time and hang out with us, Michael said. Yeah, I will. Oh, and take care of this girl of yours, or someone else will, Will said cryptically before leaving the bar. Michael looked at Felicia, confused. I like that guy, but what was that about? Felicia hunched her shoulders, taking another swig of beer. I don't know. You know him better than I do, Michael said. Not really, Felicia said, thankful that a customer at the other end of the bar called for his attention. Hey, don't you have work to do, she said, changing the subject. She tried not to think of the hurt on Will's face after her rejection. At the same time, she thought it didn't take long for Will to regroup and move on. Just outside the bar, Will scrolled through his recent texts on his phone, most from Felicia. The hot blonde that he hooked up with before Felicia had been texting him all week and he had been blowing her off. Now he responded to her texts, typing in, sorry I didn't return texts, I was out of town. Back in town tonight, let's hook up. When Felicia walked into the laundry room and saw Will putting his clothes into the dryer, she turned to go back out, but it was too late, Will had already seen her. So, now you're avoiding me, too? Will asked. Felicia turned back, walked over to the washer, and began to sort her laundry. I'm not avoiding you. I've been busy, and so have you. We're moving on, right? Yeah, of course, Will said. As Felicia loaded her laundry into the washer, they both were silent. Will couldn't resist looking at her as she leaned over the washer. Felicia tried to stay focused on sorting her laundry, but she knew that Will was staring at her. She couldn't help looking over her shoulder and catching his eyes on her with that smile on his face. What? Felicia asked, knowing full well what he was thinking. Nothing, just admiring the view. I can still do that, can't I? Will teased. Felicia smiled. Not for long. What do you mean by that? Will asked, curious. I'm moving. Michael and I finally decided that we want to live together. I'm moving into his place, Felicia admitted. Will suppressed the sudden surge of his true emotions. Well, that's good news for you, right? Yeah, it is, Felicia said, then added, actually, it's all thanks to you. Me? You told Michael about us? Oh God, no. I don't think I can ever do that, Felicia said. What I mean is, you taught me it's okay to ask for what I want and that I can be a little naughty in the room. Michael and I have been having good, really good, and it's all because of you. Well, if that was the lesson learned, it was all my pleasure. You were a really good student. Will smiled. Will, I really do like you, as a friend, and Michael does too, so I don't want to leave here with you hating me for choosing to be Michael, Felicia admitted. Felicia. I could never hate you. You know that, right? Will said. Yeah, I know. I just wanted you to know that I don't regret what we did, you know, during the storm and afterwards. Yeah, me, either. Will smiled at her. Felicia quickly turned back to her task. She thought the sooner she started the washer, the sooner she could leave. From the corner of her view, she saw him walking towards the door and was glad that he decided to leave. Felicia was surprised when instead of leaving, Will closed the laundry room door. "What are you doing, Will?" she asked as he approached her. "I think you'll figure it out soon enough," he said, grabbing her by the waist. "Will," Felicia protested mildly before he kissed her. Her response was always automatic to him. He kissed her with so much desire for her, making up for the 2 months that they had been away from each other. "God, I miss you," he said. "Felicia, please say you missed me, too." With her heart racing, Felicia just managed a nod before wrapping her arms around his neck and pulling him in for another kiss. She felt betrayed by herself for giving in so easy to him, yet at the same time she knew she had to have him again. "Will, no one compares to you," she admitted. "In that case, I'm only going to ask once." "Be mine, Felicia," Will whispered against her ear. Will." "Yes, I'm yours," she blurted out in submission. She quickly realized what she said, but it was too late. Will turned her around and held her in his arms, kissing her with a possession he hadn't before. Felicia reciprocated, claiming with him. "Yes. I'm yours," she repeated between kisses.